the future, the year 2027 in the film but 2021 in the book, everything sucks. Like, literally everything. The world is gray and miserable. All divisions exacerbated by the fact no one can have babies anymore. Knowing what we know about humanity, you may think this is a good thing. Time for the Great Reset. But there's this thing some people have called hope. Do you have it? After the last couple years, I sure don't. Welcome to the comedy podcast, Yesterday's Tomorrow Today, as we dive into the future of Alfonso Cuarón's Children of Men.
Welcome to Yesterday's Tomorrow Today, a podcast about movies whose futures have passed us by. I'm one of your hosts, Joey Reinish.
I'm Kyle McVeigh.
And we are here with special guest, perfectly named, former coworker, writer, producer, swell guy, Joey Hartstone.
How's it going?
Welcome, Joey.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming to my cave and seeing what it looks like, looks how I live. Apologies.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you for being here. We are talking about... we have to preface this a little bit. We're talking about Children of Men.
Yes.
We have selected Children of Men based on the year of the book for Children of Men.
Yes.
In the movie, very quickly, very clearly, it says the baby Diego dies in 2027.
Yeah.
Which is a little ways past where we are.
That's when we fudged it.
We fudged it.
We fudged the premise.
And
who cares? Murder us. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Joey texted me. He's like, oh no, it doesn't take place like in the past. I'm like, yeah, but like the book does. It's probably okay.
I feel responsible.
No. This is fine. No, honestly, this sets a very good precedent for us in future times where we could just sort of like, yeah, but it's fine.
But
it's fine. We've done enough where we were like very strict about it.
Yeah.
We're fine.
I just felt like you asked. They said there's one criteria, and I completely blew it out of the water. So.
I mean, it's also, this is a very good movie, so it's nice. And a lot of the movies, you may not believe this, that fit the bill for this particular show are not great.
Yeah.
Or at least of questionable quality. So it is nice to watch something that did win an Oscar or should have at the very least. Like, it was very pleasant.
Well, and after you sent that text, I'm like, it's fine. It's close to the book. And then before I started watching it yesterday, I found a YouTube video. I was like, what's different between the book and the movie?
Is it just...
It turns out everything.
Like the entire plot?
Like the it's like a video think piece thing about adapting and stuff. And it starts with, what's the director's name?
Alfonso Cuarón.
Alfonso, yeah. Starts out with a quote of him. And he's like, I never read the book.
That's amazing.
I'm like,
I saw that too.
But that's crazy. I mean, but that's also, I feel like, very common. Like, that's how like pervasive IP has been for so long, that if you just kind of throw a book on a table in front of executives, you're like, yeah. And they're like, okay, cool. Yeah. You probably read that. I mean, we're not going to read it, but okay, cool.
He said he was sold doing the adaptation after he did Y Tu Mamá También, and then read like a one-page synopsis of this thing.
Okay, that makes sense.
And turned it from what it was, which was a very introspective, thinky, political dystopia thing. Boring. And turned it into like this action road trip, which was a small part of the original novel. The grand scheme of the plot of the movie is the same, like if you fuzz your eyes.
Yeah.
But there's one huge difference, and I was talking to Kim about it last night, and I think I figured out why, but it was really tough to like do the mental gymnastics to figure out why. In the book, men are infertile.
I think I figured out why too. I'm curious if we had this.
That's interesting, because that was, after watching it, I was like, why are guys the ones that are infertile? Like, it seems like, because the process, the way they talk about how it happened, it's like mass miscarriages.
Yeah.
Which is like weird.
It's a
Like
bad
it
visual.
implies something very more odd than. And then the infertility, whereas I was like, we got cell phones in our pockets like all the time.
Yeah.
Like I got
Yeah,
microplastics blocking off my vast deference right now.
But it like that's also why the book was called this.
Okay.
Interesting.
And then in the movie they switched it to women being infertile.
Okay.
And I'm curious what you think, because I thought, I was like, why did they switch that up?
Yeah.
That's like a very small but very like it's a very different message or like plot point thing.
100%.
So like what do you think?
Well,
of it?
so at first I got kind of bogged down in the like this movie. The movie is going to blame women for the infertility, and the book blame men. And then I thought, well, it's interesting because a man created the movie and a woman created the book. But after I thought about it, I thought, no, they did the right thing at least for the movie, because if the notion is infertility has swept the planet, and then we found the one pregnant woman, she's not as special if all women can get pregnant. It's just that they haven't found a fertile man.
That's
Right.
true.
So if you find her and you're like, oh, she's pregnant, the search should be for the man who impregnated her, because he could repopulate the world, because all women could potentially get pregnant.
Right.
So I think it just kept it where this character of Key was the key to the future.
Yeah.
And you didn't need to worry about. So that was
that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think mine went down to it being visual and the optics of it. Like, it's easier to celebrate the majesty of a pregnant woman
Yes.
versus like this dude can get people pregnant.
Well, it seems like it's a comedy at that point, and you're like,
Yes.
Vince Vaughn is somewhere
Yes.
out there,
Yes.
and
Yes.
he's here.
Well, it's like Al Pacino's still getting people pregnant, and he's like 75. It's like, it's not that cool.
Well, it just like in my head, I was like, so where does it go after that? They find the one dude who can get everyone pregnant, and I'm just like, all right, they set up a factory, they set up a process, and like it's more of a what's the word, like a metaphor or like a beautiful possibility of the future if it's a woman. Because it's not like it solves anything, because it's just the one woman. She's not gonna be able to.
It's
like,
a glimmer of hope.
It's a glimmer of hope, and it's not like, all right, now we get the process going. We start the charts. We start, charting like everybody's DNA and all that. Like, it just got gross immediately when it was a dude who was the savior, and
literally saving the world with his dick.
Yeah, like
it feels bad.
And it being a man, I think. Like the initial blame is where I was hung up, because it was like, oh, it's all women's fault, and like that was like a big change from the book where it's like all dudes can't get women pregnant, and then it makes it their issue, which makes them in the book. There's like this Council of Five, which is not in the movie at all, but it's this small group of leaders who are in control of everything. And these characters and their traits kind of get meshed into other, again, if you blur your eyes, you can kind of see how they got there. But like the art cousin of Clive Owen, of Theo, in the book, Theo's cousin was one of those leaders. And it seemed to be like their over control of the populace and stuff came from that insecurity of like we can't get anyone pregnant anymore. So they just do away with all of that, and it becomes a like more focused, and it's this woman who's defied the odds and like get her through this thing. It's more visually interesting.
Definitely.
The book is all like, he's a historian, so I know where we've come from. I know like why we shouldn't repeat these past mistakes, and it's all in his head. Like, I get it, but also like, why then adapt the book at all at that point? Like, the only through line are the names, the quietus, which also was a government program to kill people at old age, not a pill or a thing that you could take home. And then
it's way nicer in the movie.
Seems
chill. I mean, I think we could make a lot of money if we made quiet. Can you imagine if we like invented quietus and then 2020 happened? I'm not saying we should have. I'm just saying
we would not care about the works.
I mean,
slow
like,
down right now.
What is it? The world's billionaires accumulated like 400 billion more dollars over the entire pandemic. So it's like, why not us?
Well, I guarantee they wouldn't have if quietus existed. Anyway, so let's do a quick rundown of the plot. Kyle has written this. Do you want to do the synopsis?
Oh,
you
sure.
wrote it?
Yeah, I wrote it in my dumb voice.
Mm.
Years of worldwide infertility has pushed humanity to the brink and made Britain a police state. A reluctant former activist, Theo, is recruited by his ex-wife and leader of the rebel group, the Fishes, a terrible name, to transport the first pregnant woman in 18 years to the coast. Hopefully, she will board a boat run by a group trying to solve the infertility crisis. After a couple double crosses and a rad 6-minute-long oneer, he succeeds, then dies. This movie is still really good.
The kids came home in the middle of me watching this, and it was in the middle of the oneer, and I'm like, I was like resisting pausing it. I'm like, I can't do it. It feels bad to do it. I can't do it. And then they like kept coming around the corner just as like people are getting shot, and I was like, and then I hit pause, and then like finished it like an hour later. And
as much as I want you guys to see someone searching for their legs, I think I'll pause it.
It's just like, it's still such an amazing, like this movie has so many amazing moments, and like the plot is what it is, but as in terms of raw movie making power, this thing is still incredible.
Yes.
And I don't know if it was, and I almost started talking about this before the show started, I don't know if it's being a parent now. I haven't seen it since I've been a parent. I've been in a special headspace since October for one reason or another. Mm-hmm. And there's just like parts of this, it's so bleak. Mm-hmm. It's so gray. It's just hopeless at like every turn, that it really, like, I remember watching this be like, this is an incredibly well-made movie. And this time I'm like, I feel bad. Like, this makes me feel not good.
In that opening scene, I hadn't seen this. I didn't think I saw it in theater, but I saw it recently after it, and that was the only time. And the moment the opening scene happens, I was like, oh yeah, this happened during the War on Terror.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
absolutely.
You just immediately go back to, oh yeah, everything had to be dark and really gloomy and kind of shitty. Yes. And I'm happy not all movies have to be like that. Now, not that I don't like some of these movies. I really like this movie, but so sad.
No, I get it. At least this movie is like good enough that I'm like, I could watch it again. Like, it's not so depressing. And the filmmaking, like, there's 3 sequences in this film that are so insanely good that I'm like, I'll watch this whole movie again just so I can watch him push start a car down a hill for like 5 minutes and feel my butt clench the whole time.
I know, it's
like, that is great
for a oneer type of shot to have the tension that it has in this multiple times. Is astounding. But there's one sequence, and I played it again for Kim last night, and I'm not sure why it hit me so hard, but it's when they go with Key and the doula.
I don't remember her name.
I can't remember her name. They go with her to hide at Michael Caine's house, and he comes and gets a drink, and it's a shot with Clive Owen in the front, and it's all them in the background talking about faith, talking about chance, and the way Michael Caine describes just like their faith and what they believe in brought them together, and by chance they had a kid, and it was a beautiful dream they had, and then by chance he was taken. And it was just like this very matter of fact, very like nice way of describing something horrible, but it ends with, if life is gonna make its own choices, then why bother? And that like kind of summed up the whole movie. I'm like, it like hit me in a way that I didn't clock that. And I think it's been the pandemic, it's been work shortages, it's been all this stuff that we've lived through since this, that so many other parts of the world had already been living through, in what Quran had like brought into this, the wars on terror, the xenophobia and all that stuff that he had brought in. And like, I didn't really have personal firsthand experience with any of that stuff, but he's like, all of this stuff already exists and we've been dealing with it all the time. Like, you're telling me that this is a future we're imagining. No, it's not. It's like reality for a lot of people. And this is, again, like, I told Kim, I don't know how to extract a ton of comedy out of this movie.
I mean, I think that scene is amazing. I think that there's a couple chilling things that even more, that their child died in the flu pandemic. And I was like, no!
Of 2008 or whatever it was. It's just like, everything now is so much closer.
Yeah.
And it feels like this movie is Trump elected next year is this movie. Like we're like that much closer. And
I mean, he might make us infertile.
it's
That
very
might
possible.
happen. Like I might just our bodies might just close down shop. There's like no more. They're like, we don't need more people into this.
Yeah, it's just you'd figure when this movie come out
2006.
6, you'd figure there'd be like it'd be a little better, but it just feels like it's even closer.
Yeah. I mean, I'll lighten things up a little bit.
Thank you.
We can talk about Jasper in terms of like, I love that character, and I think Michael Caine is so good.
He's so
Put a
good.
wig on the man, and he is transformed.
It's never bad when there's one guy who lives out in the forest by himself or with someone who's comatose.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of crazy thoughts. You're like, just get back to that guy.
I could listen
Get him
to
back to him all the time.
all the Jasper scenes. If Michael Caine just talked at me for the entire
Yes.
thing, I'm like, I'm here for it. Like everything, the way he talks, he is so fun to watch.
Yeah.
And like, I can't believe that's Alfred. Like,
And we made him Alfred.
and we made him Alfred.
Why
And
did
he
we
could-
do
And
that?
he could do this.
He's amazing. I really like that character a lot. And like even then, like he obviously has such a depressing story that they don't go into.
Yeah.
But you kind of learn, which a thing I love about the first 40 minutes of this movie is like the set deck and production design fills in so much backstory, so no one has to sit you down.
Yeah.
There's no like the moment you're talking about with Michael Caine, that's like the only real exposition-y scene in the whole movie that's kind of like filling in someone's story.
Mhm.
Everything else is totally just, oh, you see the report something signs, you learn about the immigration stuff from the bus, you kind of get that panning shot over Jasper's dresser, and it has like his cartoons and like stuff like that. So it's
Right.
like I really, really like that.
And it's
he's
that
just-
good setup because he's
Yeah.
like, you know, the human project, and then you get all the exposition. He's like, I'm
Yeah.
just trying to set up a joke, man.
Chill out a little bit.
Yeah, come on. Don't you like my strawberry cough weed? I love that. But he fills in some good stuff where it's sort of like he's like, yeah, but weed's still illegal. We're like handing out suicide pills and all this other shit, but I still have to live in the woods to grow weed.
Yeah. He's such a good character, and it's like he's the only spot where it feels like there's color in the movie, because the rest of it is this like urban decay
Mhm.
and seeing out of the bus of just like everything looks like a DMZ,
Mhm.
and the xenophobia has gotten to the point where it's like, I think they said like only Britain has survived or stood or something.
There's
like
stuff
that.
like that. It's like Britain endures. I couldn't really get, which is once again, I don't know if I wanted to get into it, but you can't really tell what the rest of the world is like. It seems war torn, probably, like a lot of civil wars, I would guess, and wars for resources. Like they hint that something happened in New York, which
Right.
I don't know what that means, you know. So it does seem like, I guess, just because they're an island.
Yeah.
It's
Easier
they've
to
managed to
defend.
keep it defended, I guess, and mildly contained.
Well,
Yeah.
I was honestly confused. So there's that moment on the video where it says only Britain endures or whatever,
Yeah.
and I
Mhm.
thought, is it like patriotism that they're saying only we're the only ones who are really
Yeah.
doing well, or
It
are
could
they
be.
telling the audience like don't worry about the rest of the world? Which I'm
Yeah.
fine with when a movie just like don't even ask any more questions.
might-
yeah.
Just the story's right here.
It might be a little bit of both. It's also that thing where they're obviously a police state, so it could just be
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the rest of the world's not great because they do have like
Yeah.
refugees coming, but also,
Fuji's.
I mean, maybe South America's great. Maybe
Yeah,
Africa's
yeah.
fine. You know what I mean? Like it could just be a little bit of propaganda to keep everyone.
But they're not going to tell you that
tightly-
either.
Yeah,
Uh,
no,
you know,
no.
that's-
No, it's just an excuse to steal more art, ultimately. That's all it is. It's just Britain's like, oh, good, now we can go steal more shit. Seems cool.
So the big crisis is, or I guess the police stateness of it is, anyone who is not a British citizen is rounded up and and deported to these
Maybe.
camps. Yeah, or something.
Yeah.
Disappeared off to these places. And it kind of has turned anyone who is a British citizen into like this upper crust, like they are the rich, they are the scum because they have everything we do not have, but it's it seems to be everyone except Britain now, because you're constantly driving by people waiting behind fences and in prisoner transports, like when they're going out to Michael Caine's house, Jasper's house, and he's talking about how they round them up and ship them out just because they're not a citizen.
Yeah.
It really makes me wonder what the other parts of the world are if they're trying to break into a place that is so inhospitable.
Kind of shitty still.
Yeah. It like police controlled and like very locked down and big brothery, and I guess it says a little bit, at least for that area, like it can't be great.
Yeah.
If they still want to be in that, you get a little bit like they have normal lives. He goes to work. They have kind of their cool, like almost futuristic flat computer monitor stuff. So there's like a little bit of future tech, but it still feels very slowed.
Yeah.
Like with all the stuff happening in the world, like we're not like doing crazy future things.
Yeah.
It's aside from that.
Yeah, it was like the kid has his little hologram, weird little
cube game,
handset cube game.
It's just a game, right? It's just like,
well, so that looked like the new Apple product, and I couldn't figure because
there's a new glove,
there's the Apple Vision or whatever.
Yeah.
You can use your hand controls to get it to do things, but I don't think there's anything on your hand that I can't follow how it works. So.
I think this is way more tactile. Yeah, this was a little bit more tactile. It looked like just a game, but I don't know. I don't know what future social media looks like. Well, they also highly implied he's very medicated, which is fine. I mean, the whole thing is like, if you're born of that generation, like if you're baby Diego, which seems like a nightmare.
Oh yeah,
like
we gotta talk about baby Diego.
But that seems like a generation of people where it's like, yeah, maybe you are just medicated because
why not? Yeah,
everything sucks.
To know there's no reason to like push towards anything.
Yeah,
because like why?
Just kind of chill.
Why do they say in the movie, and I missed it, like why quietus is a thing now? Like, because it was one thing I brought up to Kim too. Like, there's in the book they force suicide, and in the movie they have these suicide options.
Yeah,
she's like, overpopulation is a problem because resources are limited.
Yeah,
if no one's coming in, like why get rid of the olds now? Because no more resources are no longer limited. Like, what's the reason?
I mean, they are. I mean, I think it's the same thing as like, it's the purge thing where it's just like, yeah, if you can convince other people to die off, then it just frees up resources.
And I mean, like, about them.
I think it's just the implication is a lot of just like, still the upper crust obviously exists because we see that like weird little upper crust area outside of like I assume it was Buckingham Palace where he went, where the art shit was. I don't know. It had a crown on it.
It had a flying pig.
But it's like, yeah, those people want more. They don't want to. They want more zoo animals. Okay, so like free up some food, free up some resources.
Yeah. Okay.
Let them kill themselves.
I guess you don't have to worry about them then. But it just seemed like, I don't know, more heads still around. Like you would. I don't know. I guess they could be looked at both ways, but I didn't quite track why, if no one else is coming in, why you would want to thin the population like quickly. But even if there are like older people, like they could be doctors. Like if you had that option, those people still have intelligence that you could use to maybe figure some stuff.
I mean, we don't know how it's distributed either. Maybe it's not available to if you're like a key person.
Yeah, maybe.
Like I don't think the people in charge would
in the
probably.
Book, it was like age, just an age cap.
Okay.
It was like,
and then you had to kill yourself.
And they came to you. The quietus was like a squad that like found you. So they took that name and made it these kids.
Yeah. So
it was less like aggro.
That could have been the focus of the movie.
Yeah,
You're about to hit 60, and now.
Yeah,
you're on the run because they're coming for you.
That's some Logan's Run shit, right? Basically.
Yeah. Well, that would have explained, like, to me, why Jasper would have been in the woods.
Well, that also might be why. He's the only one that I saw with it in his home. So I'm wondering if you hit a certain age,
they just send it to you.
Yeah, it just shows up.
Just kind of.
I'm just gonna leave this right here.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, do you want to join AARP or would you like to kill yourself?
I just turned 28 and I got my first quietus package.
Fuck.
Look, I can't believe They sent that to me already.
Nothing is more devastating than when you get that AARP
Too
membership
early.
thing at like 25 and you're like, what the fuck? I didn't know I could join. And I did.
Did you join?
No.
Okay.
I couldn't quite suss out what the advantage would be
You
for
get
me
discounts. You get cheap
at
brunch.
that time. Yeah, you get that with AAA too.
But you can go to Denny's and spend like $2
Okay. Well,
in the future. In
the future.
in
Now in the
apocalypse
future.
Britain. Yeah.
I can get a discount at Denny's, an IHOP, or die. Seems
Very
chill.
peacefully.
Yeah. No, it sounds chill.
It's a nice way to go. Let's talk about Baby Diego,
I fucking love him.
who we open the movie finding out Baby Diego has died.
Yeah.
Down to the minute for his age, who was famous because he was the youngest person.
Yes.
Which is like that has to be like that. People talk about how he's like an asshole and irritating, but he's just like just take it, like he just wants to get out and like be left alone.
Yeah.
What did they say how he died? He was shot or something.
He wouldn't
Stabbed or
sign
something?
an
An
autograph.
right, for being a young kid, and then
Yeah.
he was like mourned like a queen or something, like a royal passing.
Yeah.
And his whole thing is like the exact inverse of like how people treated Key, like at the end of the thing. It's like he represented the hope of like there's still like this young person around, and then like in the middle of the war people were able to like stop and let them through. And I don't know, I thought that was kind of a neat bookend to like, despite how dark and dire everything is, like if there is that tiny glimmer, like people were still able to like cling to it. And I think that was like the positive vibe in this movie, was like everything sucks, everything is terrible, but if there is a way to hope and it for it to be legit, like people still will.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I want to believe that's true, but I can't tell if that's just like pure fiction.
I mean, Baby Diego isn't really necessarily even like a hope. Like he's more of like people can just, it's almost like he's almost like a delusion, like a comforting delusion. You're like, there's still someone like you know that's young. There's still someone that's like 18 in the world. So it's like we're actually not that far along to extinction yet. Like it's you know, I think he's not necessarily hope. He's just sort of like, everyone's like, but there's still youth exists. Like, and we're like a youth obsessed culture anyway. So like, of course he's the most famous person in the world.
Yeah.
Like it just seems awful. Seems like an awful life. Yeah. Seems
in
like
a
an awful
police
life.
state to be famous for being young.
I don't even know where he was. I don't think he was in
I
Britain.
think he's
even.
in South America, but yeah, he's like the last person to get served alcohol and just last person to get carded, last person to be allowed to drive a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last person to get car insurance for his rental. Didn't even make it.
So I was going to read the book for this.
Oh,
and
wow.
I bought the audio book, and I was going to listen to all that, and I ended up listening to 3 chapters, but I listened to the first chapter twice because it's actually really interesting the way that she sets up the world. So it starts with Baby Diego's death, but it's not that he refuses to sign an autograph. It's he just kind of describes it as an unremarkable death because it's all from the point of view of Theo.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't, he's like, he lived kind of pointless the way, and he died pointlessly. But then they make this big thing they call all the people that were born in the last year of fertility are called omegas. And so they make them like this whole character. So the men and women are described as like beautiful and transcendent, and they're also kind of like violent and able to do whatever they want. They almost have free reign of society because they're treated as such special people.
Sure.
So I think that's an entire faction that obviously isn't in the movie, but I think probably plays a pretty big role in the movie.
That's pretty cool, actually. That's like a kind of thing where like there are like these bigger ideas. I feel like they've floated potential like series versions of this like at times, and it's like the more you talk about it, I'm like, I could see this. There's like a couple really big ideas that you could really expand.
It gets into like, isn't this like close to Handmaid's Tale? What is it? Women who can't, it's men who can't get people pregnant in Handmaid's Tale.
And I think
right?
there's a lot of women who can't get pregnant, so they have to bring in the other women.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that like Handmaid's Tale feels like that's what happens in the book version when a man can suddenly get people pregnant.
Yeah.
Like that's the ending. And then like when there's only the one, it's the promise of that maybe it'll all work out versus like, all right, like we have an actionable plan that's really disgusting.
I love the idea that there's just these like, I don't know, these little shitbags running around being absolute nuisances throughout the world, and no one cares.
Just Paris Hilton's
like,
all over the place just for being born.
Paris Hilton just does cooking videos now, Joey. She's so chill. She's just very rich and does cooking videos.
Apologies to Paris Hilton. I know she's had a rough go of it.
She's had such a rough life.
Yeah. So we are fully in Big Brother world. Everything seems to be surveilled. It's, even in the safety of Britain, that opening sequence. Yeah. And I forgot what happened. Like it totally like blindsided me all over again. He's in the coffee shop watching the video of baby Diego and walks out. And then the coffee shop he was just in like explodes.
Yeah.
And like just that opening enough, I was like, this movie is really good. I totally forgot about this thing.
Yeah.
But just like even in Britain, there's like resistances and wars, and the government wants to or seems to know everything.
Yeah.
And like that's best case scenario is you get to live inside of that in Britain. Yeah. And I have no point to say this other than like, I guess that's what makes everybody's hope towards the end of it kind of confusing to me. I guess is like
you're having a real issue finding the good in this movie.
Yeah, well, like to what end? You know, like.
Yeah.
That's like the point that Clive makes in the middle of the movie, and that's what you think the point of the movie is.
Yeah,
when he says like we've already passed that point where it would matter.
Yeah.
That was your takeaway.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's where you ended with the. He has a full arc where he comes around,
but I didn't.
Yeah, but you did not. You were unchanged.
He has that moment after Jasper gets shot where he's like, "What was the point of that?"
Yeah,
and that is like that was my takeaway. To
the whole movie,
to so much of it, because it's like, yes, there is still this hope, but like, this is what you're trying to save, and it shows like the true disgusting part of people.
You got to double your meds, man.
Well,
we got to get you out of this. We got to get you out of this hole.
Did you have this actual thought process before you had kids? Because I did.
The humanity is like,
what am I bringing them into?
Sure, 100%,
100%.
And I didn't care about politics until I had kids.
Yeah,
and that's it. It can be directly correlated with my mental decline. Like I was fine being blissfully ignorant of the grown-ups being in charge of other parts of the world that didn't really affect me. It affected like my day-to-day like this much. But now just knowing that those people are out there is such a fucking bummer. and to know that I have 2 5-year-olds that are gonna grow up in a world that was shaped in any possible way by these people is just what was the point of that? Whatever Clive Owen said to her, what was the reasoning or what was the divine reason behind all? Like, I just, this movie, I don't know. It's like the tone of it, maybe the tone and just my mental state currently, the message can be read 2 different ways. And I definitely saw all of how horrible they were treating anyone that they considered like not part of Britain. And I'm like, you are going to save these people, the people that are the fishes, the rebel group. They're trying to do something good. They're going to use this new baby as like a marketing tool.
Yeah.
And it's like every side is bad, and it's the human project. And I think it was really smart that he made the ending ambiguous, because you can kind of take away with whatever you want. Like in Last of Us, those people are going to be bad. The human project are going to be bad. And that's kind of like how that show or that game went.
Yeah.
And then they leave it with the boat coming and the baby crying, and then they cut to black and you hear like the kids laughing, and then you can kind of take like whatever you want out of that. Like you have to be able to power through what's the point of that. And depending on where you are in your life when you watch this movie, it can be read, I think, equally well both ways. Like it's again, it's so much closer to how we are now than when I first saw it. I'm like, this is 2025.
It's listen, I remain childless, so I didn't. I guess.
Do you feel hopeful? Does this?
I think that I mean, like, if we want to get personal here, I mean, I certainly am hitting an age where, especially if I am a normal man dating age-appropriate women, which I do like to do, like, it is the question of, you've hit the point where it is like, all right, well, do you even, like, the question of children is huge. Like, I don't know. Like, I always thought that I would, but it definitely, like, hitting a point where it's like, but, you know, and that's even not even necessarily a state of the world thing. I mean, it's partially that, but it's also just a, like, realistically age thing where it's just sort of like, you really need to think kind of long and hard about
being
like,
old,
how
old dad.
And I, like, nothing wrong with their old dad.
Yeah.
I've known plenty of people that had great old dads, and then I know a couple people that have very old dads, and it is a burden on them, and I just would like to avoid that. But yeah, I mean, on top of that, obviously, there's always the back of your mind. You're sort of like, well, I mean, world's heating up, so I don't know.
To what end?
To what end?
We're not in a police state yet, I guess.
Not
so,
yet.
like, we got a couple maybe generations before we hit
got
that.
Joey, I feel like you have a more positive read on this.
Then Joey, yeah.
Yeah. The bar's pretty low.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Absolutely.
No, I like the message of hope. I did find myself thinking about, I kind of like the sort of humanity's consciousness that this, like, it's a great what if movie and premise, but the idea, because I was thinking about, well, there's some people, I don't think the Clive Owen character had a child in the book, as he's lost a child in the movie, but but it is weird. So I think it's kind of easy to understand why people who have children care about the future of the world. Yeah. But I think that the premise of this suggests that sort of whether we really care or not, it's almost weird how much we do care. Like it's kind of thing. Your world's gonna end the day you die. Yeah. So why would you behave differently whether or not there's 20 years behind you or 2000, but you probably will.
Yeah.
But you can't quite wrap your head around why. And then there's like characters like his cousin who actually don't behave differently because in the book they describe him as like so egotistical. He just doesn't give a shit about anybody else and never would have. So But other than that, like there is this like general depression that seems to like everyone starts feeling the way you feel right now. So, and it's really sad. You feel permeate the whole.
There's a great line from that character in the movie where he's just like, "Why do you still do this?" He's just like, "I just don't think about it."
Yeah.
And I think that like that's how you would survive this future, is you just try to pretend like everything's normal in spite of everything. Like
just act like there's gonna be a 50 years from now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
because like what if not? Like I'm smoking weed and eating Doritos every day, and I'm going to sleep, at 4 a.m.
Which is what Jasper was doing, and he seemed perfectly fine. He's awesome.
Aside from the music he listened to, perfectly well.
Was that future music?
I don't know.
I don't like it.
I thought it was like a cover. Like I thought it was like he played that.
What?
I thought he was saying he was close to a camp. And he was playing. Did I make this up?
What are you talking about?
I thought he said he was close to a Fuji camp, and he played stuff that sounded like that stuff.
Oh, I don't know. I thought he just was like, "Do you want to hear some music?" And then he put on really bad music.
Okay.
That was
his
just
proximity
screaming.
to the camp had something to do with his ability to
stay hidden,
to move drugs.
Yeah, because he was selling it to fucking what's his name?
Yeah.
Sal or Sai, right?
No.
Sid.
Yes.
He said his name in the third person like 50
I
times.
still-
Like
I
I
still
don't
couldn't
know
remember
how
it.
I couldn't remember that. What a great character that guy is.
Sid can't remember. You can't believe you couldn't remember his name.
Sid is in this movie for maybe 5 minutes total, and he makes maximum impact. Like truly.
He goes through every character range, like the good guy, the bad guy, the hero, the antagonist.
The guy that's just worried about someone throwing up at his car. Which I understood. That's the part of him that I most
get on your Fuji face. Get on your Fuji face.
That's like if you can make a funny moment in this movie like that, that's
impressive.
That's perfect acting.
So that's when they're breaking into the Fuji camp. They get themselves arrested to get close to the boat.
Yeah.
So now that's the interesting thing, and it was another one of those background world buildings, is they get into which I guess is like in a zone right around Britain.
Yeah.
And there's all these people that are like, you need a place to stay? You know, I'll help you. I'll get you set up. And there's like this weird black market business of people like preying on a recently deported Fuji's back into the camp. And I wonder, because like we go with I'm really bad with the names of the Malacca.
The lady?
The lady. And he's like, go find this woman and she'll set you up. But she takes him to this like house that has people sleeping in like stairwells. And there's like this sort of little industry of people who will get people set up who are deported. Yeah. And I wonder if they're being deported, I guess they're just going to get shipped to whatever's closest or easiest for Britain. So depending on where you get caught, they're not going to care like where you came from or where you broke into the country. Yeah. So you could just be deported to the other side of the continent, like, and be forced to live in this new area. And then there's all these people who are there ready to take advantage.
There were people that they seemed pretty set up there, like they'd been there for a while. I don't know if they're actively deporting people the way that they say it is. It seems like maybe they're sort of just sending them to these camps and like maybe they take them somewhere once in a while, but
like do you think they're enclosed? Did they say they're enclosed?
100%. Yeah, because when the fishes come, they say they blew a hole in the wall and some refugees got out.
I thought they were like areas that people had sort of reestablished little settlements around the perimeter or something.
This is straight up just like a cordoned off camp that happens to just be part of a crumbling town, was my understanding. And people have just kind of set up. I mean, kind of very Last of Us vibes, where like it's sort of just like a walled in city that they kind of just, also a no escape vibe, like kind of like a future prison, where they're just like, just go build your own society, like in there. We'll shoot you if you leave.
Super fun, super chill.
I felt like he had a lot of cash on him, and
no
one, no
one cared.
It didn't seem like the kind of place where you arrive with pockets full and everyone just lets you go and buy whatever you want.
No,
I
don't think anyone cares about cash.
Well,
inside.
he handed the lady a chunk when they needed the room, like for the birth. I mean, he handed her a wad, and if they're like outside of Britain, that doesn't seem worth anything.
Well, I guess you could, even inside, I guess you could just bribe guards.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I guess money would work if you're bribing a guard.
That's true.
Get some shit in.
Well,
get
and
some cigarettes.
She does have that relationship with Sid.
Sid, yeah.
So I guess that would still be useful.
Did you mention cigarettes? This made me. They were very anti-smoking in this movie.
Yes.
Like every time he wants to light up, someone kind of like
they'll kill
him. Yeah.
There's a couple really great, and it plays along the theme of like the hope. That's his arc, right? That's part of his arc. He's hopeless. He doesn't see the future. So of course they also did a thing where I think they had little future cigarettes, where I think the thing was
filters on the end.
Yes. So they did like a little bit of world building there.
Yep.
But I loved two little details about his arc as it was mirrored. It was like the smoking thing, and like as he got more hopeful, he smoked less, but also, I mean, he literally ran out of them, I think. Sure. Yeah. But and then all animals loved him. Yeah. Like whatever that is, that like sense of animals sense goodness in a person, or like something like that was like a running kind of gag through everything.
I thought that when there's like they loved you, they don't love anyone.
Yeah,
I thought that was to explain why those dogs didn't murder him when he was pushing the car. I thought that.
I mean, that could be part of it, but that's like clearly. But like, there's another part where the cat's like clinging to his leg, and like,
true, yeah.
There's like anytime he encountered an animal, it was like really all about him, and I thought that was just like a really sweet little character detail
Yeah.
throughout it.
Yeah. No, I didn't even think about it that way. But
Yeah.
it's because I had no hope.
Well,
You know?
that's sometimes you just got to be like a little puppy dog. You got to see the good.
When he arrives at that place and they say like keep this car running or something because the battery's gonna die, it's so smart of him to steal all the keys of all the other cars. So smart. But then he takes the only car he knows doesn't work, right?
He did. I think it was just the front car, right? Or maybe he didn't know, like, or maybe he didn't clock, because it is like a really good sequence where he's like removing the starters, cables, and stuff, and like, but man, that sequence is. I had forgotten about that sequence, and I was like, that is so butt clenching, so good, and funny, and like tense, and like it gets all the emotions in one scene, and he has the fucking flip-flops on, and like all that. It's so fucking good.
Yeah.
And I had completely forgot it. The only things I remembered, like Wonder-wise, was the 360 car sequence, which still, I forgot Julianne Moore fucking died in that. So it was still, I was like, God damn it. and then I remembered the end where they're in the camp, but I had completely forgot about this. Actually, I don't even know if that is like a Wonder shot, isn't it?
Coming down
part
the
of it
hill.
coming down the hill.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's just like this insane sequence that I forgot about, and I was like, this is cinema. This is peak cinema.
I was trying to figure out if the ping pong ball was like CGI'd and then the rest happened. And I'm like, that was what I thought the trick of this shot was the ping pong ball being passed.
Well, that is good, but it is like, I think you're right. Is like it seems like such an out of place like little character thing, and it's like cute, but but it's so clearly to just get you distracted on this weird thing that they're doing, so they can shoot her and surprise you. Like,
well, it's like that's like one of the first times you kind of see him outside of Jasper, like lighten up.
Yeah.
And it's immediately taken like in the most brutal way.
Yeah.
But that ping pong ball sequence, every time I saw it, even then and now,
on it.
Why are they doing this? Like, it's so awkward.
And you're doing it, and it's also like, you're doing that with everyone?
Hundreds of people.
Are you talking about? Who's agreeing to do this with you?
I'm going to spit this ping pong ball at you, and I want you to catch it.
I 100% would choke to death on it. Like, that's going straight to the back of my throat. I know that for a fact.
That sequence is so good.
Did you ever see the behind the scenes on how they did that sequence? Like, they
the
just
car?
Kinda, yeah.
No.
They built, like, you should look at on YouTube. I think they have the behind the scenes stuff. Or maybe I used to own the DVD.
Yeah.
Anyway, but they just obviously built a car with like that they kind of cut the top off of, and it's just kind of like this bubble thing. I love when movies just make technology to do a thing that's never been done before. But yeah, it was just like a camera that he could control and just kind of like was. So there's like, it is literally just a cutout car with a camera in the middle of it. And I think maybe, I mean, obviously there's some other fuckery where they must have spread everyone out.
Yeah, made it a little wider.
But like,
but it is in a car that's moving.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think those seats were able to like recline and move out of the way.
Yeah, that also may. But well, you're also probably right. It was probably also, which is also crazy because that means your actors are doing choreography with the camera, which is so fucking cool. Like this movie is just, I guess for me, like the mess. By the end of this movie, I was more just like, reinvigorated for the business of filmmaking. Does that make sense? Like by the end of it, I was like, yeah, it's kind of a bummer, but I was like, I feel pretty hopeful. But by the end of it, I was like, fuck, movies are good. Movies are so good. We do cool shit. We should do this.
I remember why it came here.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, like this literally came out the year before we moved out here. And I'm like, there's no way that I wasn't thinking kind of about, like, there's no way that I remember. I feel like 2006 was a pretty decent year for movies. Like, there's no way that wasn't kind of part of a little nudge to kind of be like, oh yeah, shit's good. Let's go.
Because everything that's made is children of men.
I know. But it is like, it's just one of those things. It's just like that reminder of just like, we do it. Like these movies do squeeze through. And we can't, and not that I don't love a Fast and Furious. Fucking love a Fast and Furious. Huge. Love a Reign of Fire. Love a dragon movie. But it is like, it was like, it's just been a while since I watched a movie. I was like, damn, that's fucking art. I
Yeah.
feel good about that.
100%.
Art that didn't make me feel. I mean, it should have made me feel sadder than it did. But I mean, like, sometimes you watch a movie and you're like, that's art. And I didn't like that. This was like, this is art.
It
And
made
I like
me feel
it very much.
It made me feel things I try to bury.
Yeah, I don't like it. And I don't know if it made sense.
I 100%, like, if I took anything away from it, I did, like, watching it and Kim was off to the side. I'm like,
Yeah.
This is a really good movie.
Yeah.
Like, this is really, really well done.
Yeah.
And I feel awful, but it's so well done.
Insane.
But yeah, I think you're right. That's for us in particular. It's like a good takeaway. Like, you can make like some amazing stuff, and like the power of making an amazing thing is like incredible. But the message of the movie itself this time or whatever, like,
Yeah.
has dominated like me thinking about it since I watched it.
I think it hit me so hard because and I don't, Joe, you may not know this. You probably don't know this, but like since 2020, Joey and I have had a group of friends that have been like watching like bad B movies or worse types of movies every Sunday for like years now.
Yeah.
And
It's
you know,
almost
the
4
hope
years.
is you're chasing the dragon. Not to say dragons again. You're chasing the dragon.
Kyle
that
loves
feel
dragons.
well, they're on my mind. And they were wyverns. Not even real dragons.
Sorry.
Anyway, if you want to know the difference between those, we can explain it later. But so we've kind of been chasing that feeling where like you see a really good B movie where you're like, oh, that's like dumb but kind of fun. But most of them are bad, like very bad.
Yeah.
And then maybe we have ruined ourselves because I've always been a proponent of like, you can learn a lot from bad movies.
Yeah.
Like learn a lot about what not to do as a storyteller, as a director, as anything.
Yeah.
But then watching this, I was like, we should watch more good movies. I was like, maybe we're getting maybe I've gotten too much of the other end for the last few years.
Well, I think Vince said that on his episode.
Well, that was
he
the
got
thing.
mad at
Yeah.
me for only watching bad
Straight up
movies.
Vince Gilligan. Maybe we should listen to Vince Gilligan when he's like, you guys should watch good movies
He's like-
more often.
He's like, throws out a good movie. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
He throws out another good movie. Oh yeah, it's on the list. I haven't seen that one. He's like, but you've seen Sons of Steel and you've seen like The Room multiple times, and you haven't seen Blade Runner. You haven't seen 2001. I'm like, no, I haven't.
Just not on the agenda. Just not at the top of the list.
You know, I got you learn the same things in a different way. You know, like what not to do is the same thing as what to do. It's all good.
That's a brave group because I find I hate watching, like, especially with my wife. If I find a movie that I loved when I was 15, I'm like, you should check this out. She's like, well, that's a really sexist movie. I'm like, well, it wasn't when I was 15.
Oh, well,
and now you're
yeah.
just ruining it for me.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, that's a whole other problem where you're like now I'm just like, if someone's like, I've never seen The Goonies, I'm like, you wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
You should have seen it when you were
That's right.
15.
That's right.
Because you're not,
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and watch you suffer through it, or I just don't want to have that conversation afterwards
Yeah.
where it's just like, I know, I've heard enough of it where I know enough people that have seen it as adults where they're like,
I haven't seen it.
don't watch it. You won't like it.
What was one of the movies? What's a movie that's been ruined?
So, well, like we watched The Verdict, which is
Okay.
like a great Paul Newman legal movie.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in this movie where, well, first of all, the only like real female character ends up being very duplicitous. And when he finds it out, he slaps her.
Yeah.
And you can slap a woman in a movie. Michael Corleone does it, but you're not on his side. But in this movie, you're meant to be like, she had it coming. And my wife was just like,
damn.
no. So this was just acceptable in the 70s and 80s, apparently, you know?
Yeah.
But it's so true. And like, I hadn't seen it in 5 or 6 years, which certainly 5 or 6 years ago, I was against slapping women as well. But you just...
I'm glad you said that.
Yes. I want to be on record. But
a lot has changed in 5
We'll clip out this clip. We want to make sure the record stands.
But no, you watch it with someone who's not in love with the movie going in, and,
Yeah.
and they'll point the things out of why you shouldn't necessarily love every aspect of it. You're just ruining it.
I know.
Now.
And you're just like, I know. Let me. I know. I don't believe these things. Just let me.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to live.
That's
Please. I can like so few things now. Everyone I love that made anything I like is a piece of shit, and that sucks so bad. All I have, like, just let me listen to one Kanye album. I know I won't listen to the new stuff, but let me enjoy like College Dropout.
But I didn't know then.
I didn't know. I can listen to Thriller. Why is Thriller okay for everyone to listen to?
Thriller gets a pass.
Is it because he didn't go to jail?
I guess. Yeah.
Who do we have on recently that went there? Didn't we have someone on the show that had been to Neverland? Anyway, we don't have to suss that out, but I may have made that up. We black out during these. We don't know what's happening.
Just got to keep talking. Just
got to keep it rolling, baby.
Kyle, talk to us about religions.
Yeah, I think that was like one of those offhand things. Like there were two. Well, there's like three things. One, there's a lot of like shanty, which I did notice. Which I guess
was Jasper, right?
That was Jasper and the midwife. They were both
yeah.
sort of doing that, which I think makes sense. That there's sort of like there's also clearly been this wave and rise of like Buddhism and Hinduism, and like I could see how that sort of spirituality would be comforting.
Yeah.
In like a time like this. Where there's like
it's not focused on making you feel bad.
Well, it's also not focused on humanity, right? Like it's like it's a general like, if you want to dig into reincarnation, it's like, yeah, we're like all gonna die out, but we'll be fucking badgers. So it's fine, like we're still like the life and energy. Energy can't be destroyed. It'll still be somewhere, out there, which is, I get it. I see why people do that. The more interesting ones are the crazy Christian ones, which they mention one is a girl that Theo used to date, and she became, I forget which one that was. She became a renouncer, which are the people that we don't see in the movie, but they flagellate themselves.
Right. They just throw that in as like
we fucking love a flagellation. I love it. I mean, best part of the Da Vinci Code is that albino dude flagellating the shit out of himself. I guess that's more like, I've never really understood flagellation. I honestly don't. I mean, I guess I understand it. Right now in this world, I'm like, I don't know. Like, are they like, if we beat ourselves enough, we're going to go to heaven, or is it we'll beat ourselves enough that suddenly people will get pregnant again? I'm not sure what the goal is.
I think it's
of that.
It's a very specific mental snapping, and I don't think there's rhyme or reason to it. I think it focuses the existential pain into
a real pain,
into a physical real pain that you can focus on.
Sure.
Were there other in the 3 chapters of the book? Were there other these sects you had kind of heard, like the Omegas? Were there any other of these groups that had started formed? Pseudo-religious, other things?
I don't think they had talked about that, but what I noticed, I mean, so I'm not a religious person, so most religious metaphors are lost on me. Like I had to watch this 3 times to be like, oh, he's realizing she's pregnant in a barn, which I think is kind of like a manger, And but they also do the thing that I think The Matrix does it too, where it's like they look at the Jesus character and they're like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And they do it twice.
Yeah.
They do the same thing to Neo. And it's like, but they do that for people like me. Like, I might actually need you to say that out loud.
I
go,
do.
oh,
all right. That makes sense.
This is good.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes it's also lost on me. I like the more like, I don't know, Constantine. I like the lure. I like the lore and the world building of the Bible. I like angels love devils. We like demons. The things we built out from there. I really like that. But yeah, sometimes same. It'll be like, oh yeah, that is Jesus-y. Okay. They're in a room and the shadow of a cross is like projected on their head. It's like, oh. All right.
You just need Clive Owen to be like, wow, this is so Jesus-y. Like, in the manger.
Damn, this
it's
is Jesus-y.
It's like we're in a manger.
I mean, like, but they do disarm. I mean, she talks about cutting titties off, and then she has a Jesus moment.
Yeah.
So it's disarming. Quran, a master. And then the other one was just like your regular old repenters. I think they're like in every End of the World
Your
movie
sandwich
where
boards.
it's just like, they're like End of the World. Let's make sure we all, I don't know, get raptured together, or at least make sure we're going to heaven, I guess.
Well, which way would you go? Would you start flagellating?
None of them. I think I would just kind of, I've never been a particularly religious person.
Yeah.
Midwest religious, where like if like your friend's mom was like, "Do you want to go to church with us?" My parents would be like, "Yeah, go," but probably just because they wanted a Sunday morning to themselves, I'm guessing. But like that sort of stuff,
A Midwest
or like
religious where you didn't sleep in too long on a Sunday.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like we didn't go, but it was like there would just be times where you went a handful of times a year, not because my parents would make me go, but it'd be like, "Oh, you're in Boy Scouts and you guys run the mass this Sunday," which is stupid. Anyway, and stuff like that. But I've never
Kyle.
quite.
Hell.
Yeah. No. I get it. And I'm ready. My body is ready. But I've never found comfort in that sort of stuff. Like, it's hard for me to kind of, I understand why people find comfort in that, but also to the same degree, I'm just sort of like, but you know. But and I'm sorry to anyone that, this is, we're all just trying to cope however we cope. And if that is, if religion is your flavor of a coping mechanism, I think that's great. Better than heroin. So, I mean, I think.
I'm thinking about that too long. I'm like,
though mass genocide and crusades never happened in the name of heroin yet.
Right. Right.
Could.
I mean, if the world is ending.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd try it.
You're chasing the dragon.
I'm chasing the dragon. I'm chasing the wyvern. Like, it's, like, let's check this off the bucket list. If I'm like super into it, I don't have very long anyway.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, you would end up having some sort of mystery disease in the middle of this anyway, and they'd be like, "Well, we don't have."
I've had pneumonia for 6 years. I don't know what's happening to me.
You're fine. You're fine.
You're having a different thing.
Either keep suffering, or we're just gonna remove your lungs. I don't know. Yeah. What do you want?
So how do you guys feel about this world? You gonna live in 2021/2027, the world of tomorrow? You gonna?
I think I would definitely have the quietest on me at all times, because I do think that this world has the ability to devolve rather quickly.
Yeah,
and I think it's interesting that it doesn't, because I think that's what usually happens. We think it's going to be more seismic, but then it's not. But at some point, they're just going to run out of resources or time or whatever, and I want to have the easy way out and the right soundtrack to go with it.
That's correct.
Yeah. The screaming and the guns and the
That's the good
industrial machinery.
Stuff. Yeah. I feel very similar. I don't want to live in this future by any means. Garbage. But
you mean 2025?
Yeah. I would see, now we're confusing things, because now we've said 2021, 2027, and 2025.
And in our timeline, 2025.
I don't want to live in the world of Children of Men, but yes, if I were to bring something back, quietus would probably be what I mean. Like, not just for me personally, but it's like something in the world where it's sort of like, we don't have to go into it, but it's like, I think if there's something, sometimes people should be able to pick how they leave.
Yeah.
I think.
I would bring back that little computer game with the glove.
What even was it? It looked like shitty Tetris.
Yeah. I just want to know what it is and the clicking sounds that it made. Like,
the clicking sounds were very tactile. It was very nice.
And the control was very pinky based. I don't know if you noticed the way he was like doing this.
Doing
the
a lot
pinky was like off doing its own thing. And
I don't know if I like that as one-handed. Well, actually, I do, because he was eating basically.
Well, he could take his pills while still doing whatever that was.
Which is pretty good. I don't know, man. I just bought Prince of Persia for the Switch, and that's a pretty good game. And that
can't play
game
with one hand.
looked suck. That game looked suck. That's not how words work.
The game looked suck. I think that'll do it for our deep dive into the depressing world of Children of
Yeah, we're
Men.
gonna have to figure out something in the Patreon segment to really uplift.
Yes.
We'll figure it out.
Still an incredible movie.
Yeah,
Amazing. A future that shouldn't feel as familiar as it does.
Yes.
I have not watched it. It's kind of why I tapped out of Handmaid's Tale, because I didn't need to be reminded of that nonstop.
There was also a lot of like we like to do back patty stuff in this industry sometimes. It was a little bit once you're a couple seasons in, you can kind of hear the you see? It's like, all right, let's calm down.
I also felt bad watching it with Kim, and I don't know why. I'm like, I'm not a piece of shit, but this show makes me feel like a piece of shit. Like,
it made you question the patriarchy entirely, and you're like, I really don't want to sit with this.
I'm a dude. Oh no.
Oh, we're terrible.
But that'll do it for this episode of Yesterday's Tomorrow Today. You can find more on our social media. Kyle runs those. We have a Blue Sky, I've heard. We have a TikTok. We gotta
open that.
And Twitter. You can also find us on Patreon.
Patreon.com/LOLJK podcast,
where we have a bonus segment where we talk about things may or may not be related to the movie we discussed, but it's just an extra 25 minutes just for patrons of the show. You'll just be guaranteed to know what's the most recent episode is and updates and everything. So we appreciate that. I think that'll do it. Joey, thank you so much for talking about this awesome, horrible movie with us.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate you showing.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything coming up? Anything that you've done that you desperately need eyes on?
I really wish there was.
What's the name of your book?
It's called The Local.
The Local.
Hell yeah.
Check out The Local. I own it on Audible.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I'm doing my part.
Yeah, everyone else could do their part. Minimum.
Their part. Kyle?
Go buy a book. You need to read a book. If you're listening to this show, I know you haven't read a book in a while.
Yeah, that's our typical insult the audience right before we leave. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time. I've been Joey Reinish.
Kyle McVeigh.
Thank you.
Bye.